and say anything on there. That makes me very anxious, right?
Yeah, well, no, I think they
it's
flag
for
us
kids.
as being pedophiles, and then we'd be off the air.
Well, is that why there's very
I
few
think that's
Joe
why.
Biden videos on
Yeah, I think that's what.
YouTube? Because it is chronic pedophilia.
Let's do this.
Wade and Carter weather brought to you on a Tuesday morning by the great folks at Deerland Feed. We say for everything you need, Deerland Feed. I bought this stuff called Bifin. It's kind of a milky white product, and you mix it into a pump-up sprayer, and like mosquitoes died in DeWitt County when I sprayed this stuff. There was a gentle breeze out of the south, and all of a sudden I got this, whoop, whoop, mosquitoes falling out of the sky all over the place. This stuff works. And this is not like something you just go buy at a box store.
No, you can't get it there. Deerland is probably the only place you can get it.
You buy it, and the thing says makes up to 80 gallons. It's made to go in a farmer's pump-up sprayer, the big sprayers. 81 degrees in Victoria today under similar skies to yesterday. Mostly sunny. High today of 90. It's almost like summer.
Almost?
Yeah, almost like summer. Very excited to have you folks with us this morning. We're looking forward to having a one-on-one. I know you, Ash, last night moderated a debate. I thought you did a great job as always.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It's fun for me to sit on the sidelines and observe, honestly, the professionalism you bring to what you do when you do those things. Same way at the ballpark. Although I itch to get in the booth with you at the ballpark.
Why?
I just want to go just a bit outside. I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that stands up and sings,
seventh inning stretch.
Yeah,
take me out of the ball game.
Take me out of the. I want to be that guy, But you don't.
Come be that guy tomorrow.
You never invite me. I've never been invited. Just saying.
Did he just miss that?
Because I'm a victim. I'm the new Democrat. I deeply want to be invited, pursued, begged, pleaded with. Brandon, won't be the same without you. That's what I want.
I don't beg.
I know. Well, except with Cheryl.
But
I understand. I'm with you on that. So tell me real quick, because we're going to give all the time we can to our guest, 8 minutes. I'm trying to figure out, he's a lawyer. I mean, it could take 20. I object. I have more time here. I think that this is really pertinent news that the Wall Street Journal, is it the Wall Street Journal that's now saying, oh, by the way, seems to be credible that virus leaked out of a lab in Wuhan. I have to ask, how many people on the street, if I said, hey, where did that Wuhan virus come from? Doesn't everybody pretty much say, well, come on, man, it leaked out of that lab over there in China. They were working on that virus and it got out. Right? I mean, doesn't everybody say that? Or do people say, well, we don't know it. It could be from that bat soup. Sure it was. It's a biological weapon. Chinese were developing it, probably in cahoots with the National Institute of Health.
Because how many tourists from the U.S. have gone over to China, eaten something out of a wet mark, and spread a plague across the globe?
It's never happened.
Never.
And it ended up in Italy. And then a new variant ended up in India after the Indians showed some resistance to it. They just wanted to show.
And resistance to the Chinese army that was trying to push back along their border.
Very interesting. And I don't know what happens. Do you have, ultimately, is there a world court? Ultimately, does anybody, let's just say that China were to come clean. All right. We did it. We were trying to make flat lies. Next thing you know, no, for real, that was like a Latino Asian.
Yeah, it
didn't work.
No.
But I'm trying to figure out how you hold them accountable. Can you hold them accountable? They say, we don't care. Whatever you think, we don't care.
They don't care. Think of the other thing they're doing right now. They're playing games and microchips for cars. Drive through the city. Car lots have no new vehicles on them because the Chinese are playing games with the microchips and key components that we need over here to finish off cars. And the Biden administration isn't saying anything.
No, gutless and spineless is the administration. My daughter, most of you know, works for the Sewell dealership in Katy. And she just said, yeah, Dad, it's a microchip issue. It comes from China. Cadillac is basically shut down on production. And I said, well, here's what I don't understand. If it's a $250 chip, why can't we just make it here for $500? You're only adding $250 to a $100,000 car. I mean, it's $1,000 chip. Okay, we make it here for $2,000. It's still a $100,000 car. She said, Dad, I got scoffed at when I suggested that in a sales meeting. She said, oh, you don't understand. It just doesn't work that way. It's a supplier agreements and blah, blah. Well, we have supplier agreements. Don't they work both ways? And again, we got Mr. Crocker's here. He's an attorney. We can ask him. What do? Do you just sue China? They just snub their nose at you.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you bring that home? How many of you would be willing to pay a little bit more to really buy an American-made car? Would you pay more to know that the parts you need don't have to be sourced from China? What happens if we end up in a serious trade war with them, or somebody was?
Seems like we're in one now. Every time we turn around, something's going on. China's keeping something from the U.S., whether the origins of a virus or microchips for vehicles or PPE in the response to the virus, or they send us defective stuff. Remember all those things that they did when we were being nice and sent them our PPE? And they said, well, okay, we've got more than we need. We'll send it back to you. They were manufacturing defective stuff and sending that back to us, playing it off as the original protective equipment that we had sent them.
Yeah.
Masks, visors, gowns, all that stuff. Remember?
Sure. Yeah. I wanted to. I'm glad that we talk about
party
this.
And a government that cannot be trusted at any level. Yet the Biden administration continues to trust them, and the world continues to be beholden to them. It makes no sense at all.
I want you to know that I'm glad that we tackle these types of subjects and talk about these types of things that are somewhat enlightening. For those of you that listen to us every day, when we come in the mornings, a lot of times I just kind of spin around the dial. And the other day, so I didn't know this, but like some trivia to let you know that if we had to discuss this every day, I would just slip my wrist right here on the air. See, when Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck split up, the rumor was because he drank too much, okay? But now he's clean and sober, and he was seen recently, although both remain deeply committed to their children. That was emphasized.
Jennifer Garner or Jennifer Lopez?
No, Jennifer Lopez. Now he's back with J-Lo,
okay,
who dumped A-Rod, okay? But both remain deeply committed to their children. That's the radio host emphasized that, as if he has friendships with both of them and knows their counselors. And then it came out that after this weekend, that America is down on them because there was way too much PDA the last time they were out in public. Now, this is a couple that dated for years. Maybe were even married. I don't know. They were together for years, Affleck and Lopez. So now are they like mugging for the cameras? I mean, is Ben trying to send a message to Jennifer? And what's the deal? There you go.
I don't know.
That's the Hollywood Minute.
Yeah.
If we had to talk about that every day, I would literally bleed out on the show.
There'd be no more show.
Now, Ben Affleck, I mean, who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, what Jack Ryan did a pretty good job at, but he's really not made many good movies.
No, and so I liked Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan. And as much as I'm not in line with a lot of his politics or his home life, Alec Baldwin was the best. When he was young and kind of came off as that, I'm just an analyst. When he did that bit, he was believable. Harrison Ford was always kind of like, it's kind of like watching Liam Neeson now at 74, like he's still whipping, I'm coming for you. Really, Liam?
I would find you and I would have killed you.
You know, you bring in your walker? I mean, come on. If you're not Bill Posey and you're over 70, I think I can take
Unless he's bringing in Walker, Texas Ranger. Then
right.
It's believable.
Yeah.
But if it's got the tennis balls.
If it's got tennis balls on it, it's not working.
Not at all.
I can see Mr. Crocker's wheels turning over there. He goes, okay, they've libeled that guy. Okay, they've done this. And I mean, we're probably going to get served during the show.
That'd be a first.
Yeah, well, it could happen.
Let's go through roll call this morning, then we'll take our first break, and then we'll bring candidate for City Council District 3, Dwayne Crocker, onto the microphone. Terry Murray, first one in. Good morning to you, Terry. Judge Posey's in quickly.
Hi, Judge.
Sheriff Louderback bringing in the bronze medal this morning.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Bobby Leister's in, Adam Daughtry, Diane Tippett, Christina Wise, H.R. Mallory, Rena Scherer. Good morning. Our Leisterometer holding steady at 1,004 YouTubers.
Elected officials, state troopers.
Justin Glass is in. Chris Conrad, optimistic. Good day, even though his Winnipeg Jets got swept last night by the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, Jets, Jets.
Crashed. As good as they were against Edmonton, they were that bad against the Canadiens.
How far is this plane going? All the way to the scene of the crash.
That's as far as the Jets are going. All the way to the scene of the sweep. The Bell Center.
You're reading comments.
Heir,
reading names.
No, the heir to the Montreal Forum. Justin Glass in, Junior Samples, good morning. Scott Tomko, Funky Trey Molina is joining us. Johnny Houghton, good morning.
Hello, Trey.
Mike Rell. Or is it Roll?
Rail. That's Mike Rail.
Okay.
Long-time family friend. Good morning, Michael.
Patrick Strauss. Good morning, Lisa Poole. Catherine Ives checking in. Richard King. Roy Gutierrez. Clint Ives. Scott Tomko.
Commissioner Ives. Good morning, sir.
There we go. Thank you. I clicked that one with my hand. Jennifer Rayburn is in. She says, Dwayne Crocker and blood clots. Tuesday just got better.
Curing blood clots, people.
Yeah.
Curing blood clots.
Brian Hopping.
That's his Indian name.
Patsy Gluey.
Justin
I think that's
Bieber.
it. There's Jay Dupp, Matt Boucher.
Matt
Good
Boucher,
crowd this morning. Good crowd this
extension
morning.
agent. I mean,
BJ Nelson giving me props for the job I did last night. Thank you, BJ. Appreciate that. Tom
Croc-
Price is in.
Crocker's over there going, doesn't live in my district, doesn't live in my district, doesn't live in my district. He's like, Louderback, great, good. He's in Jackson County. He's just,
Bob Watley says he also bought mosquito chemicals from Deerland Feed and for his fogger, and as a result, he finally found a reason to wear his mask.
Right, because you're like,
But he said it worked really well.
Absolutely. Deerland Feed. And they're so thoughtful. Like when I went in, the guy was like, how big a space you talking about? I said, oh, just my yard. And he goes, well, how big's your yard? Because, I mean, I'm sure some of these farmers go in there, ranchers, it's 14 acres, it's inside that fence. And he just said, oh, this will work. He just said, this will work. Oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, cool.
Jeff Finley, Chris Ray Brissett.
Hello, Jeff Finley.
Don Nicole.
Hi, T-Lad, sweet thing.
I think we're in. Oops. Stephanie Miller, Karen Webb.
What a group, man.
Yeah, Michelle Hawkins.
So that's the
Carry on for a minute, because you know what I forgot to do? Cheryl's traveling, and I forgot to give her a wake-up call.
You better call her. I won't tell you what his deal says for his wife on his phone. What's great about it is for every person that's listening on Facebook, and it's just what an elite crowd that we're blessed to have every morning. Every morning these folks are here. There's also a whole score of folks listening on Magic 95.9 FM. And the great thing about that is we now have 25,000 watts. We're on the 5th floor of Bill Windlet's Laurent Tower. And if you need space, Bill can probably find you an office in here. And it's really nice. Call Bill Windlet here at Laurent Tower. But why don't we, since you had your headphones off, why don't we'll get Mr. Crocker to come over here and address this microphone. And then you can turn that. And once again, for a Tuesday, do you have court today, sir?
I do not.
I didn't know if you had court today or if you were just typically overdressed. I mean, it's a Tuesday. So Steve Kidder's a dear friend of ours, and Steve Kidder is also a sponsor of the program. And it's worth noting you see Steven all the time.
Yes.
I mean, he might wear the same pair of blue jeans to work 4 or 5 days in a row, Now,
yeah, I'm often accused of being the suit guy.
Right. Yeah.
And listen, I was asked this question about why do you wear a suit every day, and I'm saying, look, if I'm going to work, I feel like I need to put on the uniform and go.
Yes, sir.
And I view it as kind of a respect for who I'm going to see and what I'm going to be doing that day, and kind of as an etiquette thing. So just. I feel more comfortable in a suit, which a lot of people don't get.
Several years ago, there was a chancellor at the University of Texas named Admiral Gerald McCraney. And he gave a commencement speech where he said, the most important thing you can do every morning is make your bed. Yeah. He said, you've probably heard that. It's a beautiful speech, and he's a genius guy. And he's in that dress white uniform, and he's got his hat on. So Dawn, my wife, has started in lately and with the boys, which I think is a great thing. She said, we're going to get up in the mornings and we're going to make our beds. And it is weird. It's like, I'm going to,
started with the boys. That's code for starts with you, right?
But it's embarrassing because I could see, as sharply and crisply dressed as Mr. Crocker is, that he and his wife probably get up and make the bed every morning. I get that.
And then there's us slovenly.
Right. But I'll tell you that it honestly feels better to turn the covers down every night and get in what is a made bed.
Yeah.
It does. So when you're comfortable, that I get up, I put on the uniform. You feel undressed without a tie, for example, at work. It makes sense. It also sets a tone for what's going on there. What type of law do you practice? Are you a litigator? Or?
When I was a younger lawyer, I did litigation quite a bit. I've actually kind of transitioned over the last probably 15 years into more of a kind of corporate commercial transaction type practice. Do a lot of contract work, do some commercial transactions. You guys may know I represent several governmental entities in the area, both in Victoria County, one in Calhoun County, one in Jackson County, and so those are a big part of my practice. Not a lot of lawsuits, but I joke that I like to keep a drama-free practice.
Right.
I love working on commercial deals.
Beautiful.
Dawn just blasted you out, said that she had to make your side of the bed this morning.
She's a sweetheart. Well, because I leave while she's still in it.
It's hard to make the bed when somebody's
I can pull it right over her head, but I mean, at some point she's going to get frustrated.
Hey, I'm gonna make the bed in the morning by myself. So,
I think I'm gonna start getting her up with me, and we'll do that first thing. It's a good habit
with you.
Probably not.
Not much you can sleep in for another half
I get
hour,
up, and then
minutes.
the chickens get up, and then she gets up. She's still at work by 7:30. It just takes. It's an early morning for us. Tell us. I mean, the cliche question, but the question to ask you is, why are you doing this?
Sure. Yeah, and I seem to get that question quite a bit, both formally and informally.
Informally, it probably goes more like this: have you lost your mind?
Yeah, that's
what are you thinking? Don't you have enough on your plate?
That's exactly what it goes like. Look, here's the deal. And I said this last night in the debate that Wade hosted for, or Ash hosted for us here. Several years ago, I was told by a good friend of mine. He said, "Look, I've been working in Victoria. I want to work on Victoria." And that really stuck with me. And I thought, that's a really cool way to look at that. That's a great philosophy of what you're doing when you put yourself out there, when you put yourself into time, both civic boards, government, whatever it is. And I've really kind of taken that to heart. And I've gone, I've served on civic boards. I've served on various committees and boards from my church. I feel like I've worked on Victoria. I've been fortunate enough professionally through work with the Port of Victoria and also the West Side Calhoun County Navigation District, because those two entities were basically over the barge canal,
Yes, sir.
The barge canal. And so, I feel like I've worked on Victoria through those endeavors. I've learned a lot through those processes. I understand both business sides of transactions and development, but I also understand the government side because I have represented those entities. And so, I feel like I have a unique background from that standpoint. And I was just, I don't want to say I was called, going into the ministry or something, but I said, this is something that I can help the city with. I have a skill set that I think I can help with. And, this is my hometown.
And you office 50 yards from City Hall. So
that's fair.
That helps. Let us do this real quick. We're going to take a quick break. By the way, if you're running against Dwayne Crocker, you might want to call Allen's Wrecker Service to pull you out of the campaign. 578-6300. That's Allen's number. Allen will help you wherever you're at. He's your go-to toe-to.
He's our go-to toe-to every time we need him. Thankfully, it's not often, but when we do, he's there.
The reason we don't need Allen's is because we buy our vehicles at the Atzenhofer dealership. You can buy at atzenhofer.com. Since 1926, Atzenhofer has been Victoria's dealership. Right there on the Navarro Motor Mile.
Just down the road from higher prices.
Stacking them deep, selling them cheap.
Chevrolet, Cadillac, Mitsubishi, Mazda, all the pre-owned.
All the service.
I think was that F-150 still there this morning? Okay, go buy and get it.
Go buy it.
Deal.
Make them a
2019. Under 39, 74,000 miles. I have the exact same model, but a couple of years older, and I love it.
Say, would you take 35? See what happens. They might surprise you.
They might. Speaking of surprising you, no surprises with White Trash Services. 550-1826, reliable.
Absolutely.
If they tell you they're going to show up on Wednesday morning to get your trash, they show up on Wednesday morning to get you trash. You're not coming home at the end of the day and finding your trash can still full at the end of the road, as I had with a prior customer or service, I should say, when I was a customer of a competitor before I saw the light and called 550-1826 and became a White Trash customer. Sometimes there'd be a day or two before they'd show up to pick the trash up so it'd be sitting there at the end of the road.
White Trash.
But not with White Trash. I get it out there.
They've expanded their operation. They actually added a new building, and they're constantly upgrading and maintaining their fleet.
So it's a big deal. Yeah, I appreciate the reliable service that I get from White Trash Services. 550-1826, whether you need weekly curbside or if you're in the county, ditch side service to a larger dumpster.
Big project.
Let's say you've got a few family members that live on the same piece of property. They can put a dumpster out there for all of you to share. Or if you've got a big project,
they've got a hillbilly special. If you're all out there to get me and Granny and Papa, you got the VCS company as our banner sponsor, and no doubt you know Mr. Jim Hartman, the Hartman family, Jennifer, JR, and Kelly. They do a tremendous job for everything you need, from surveillance to security to surround sound to home theaters. It just goes down a rabbit trail all the way down to two-way radios, which is how the company got started. They outfit all types of law enforcement vehicles, ambulances, first responder situations. They take care of all those communications. And if you're a first responder, go in there and ask about FirstNet, which is a dedicated network for first responders. Let's stop there. We'll get all of our sponsors loved on, and they are the absolute creme de la creme of Victoria business. I mean, our sponsors are the elite of the elite, and we're very blessed because of access to folks like you, Mr. Crocker. People want to advertise on our show because we bring them, we call it news straight from the source. And I appreciate all of our elected officials and those that are seeking office for being accessible and coming in and spending time with us. So, I'll tell you that I've got a certain empathy for anybody that puts themselves out there, because I've done it and it didn't end well. I was like Tom Cruise before he met Kelly McGillis. The first time I crashed and burned. But I learned a lot about our city. I learned to a degree, and this is just a rhetorical statement. I learned a lot about our ability to become very petty, and our ability to think that all of a sudden, boy, this is our chance to be like New York City, So, Dwayne, where'd you go to high school? Really? Oh, wow. Did you ever use the N-word in your lifetime? This kind of stuff is so irrelevant to fixing the streets in Victoria. I want to know what your plan is
to fix the streets.
No, but you heard at the mayoral level last night. Well, the Crestwood, this and this and that. And the reality is that Crestwood was probably on the CIP back when Emmett was on council the first time. And then Balknight and those guys kind of got it through. And yet what's interesting, they're complaining about Crestwood while they laud Raleigh, who we love. And Raleigh McCoy was his officers right next door. But it's kind of like it becomes a point of contention about how Crestwood's being done. Well, okay, blame the mayor for that. Right. If you're going to have that in the mayoral debate, so what do you do? How do you go in with a background in consensus building? How do you go in and solve those issues among council?
Because your district has them too. I used to live in your district, and I know where I lived. They came in, they redid the streets. They were worse than they were before they fixed the streets.
Yeah. No, I hear. I made the comment that every candidate would love to run on. I'm going to lower taxes and fix the streets.
Right.
Reality is that those two things don't really jive together.
Yeah. What's his name? Mark Lofgren ran on that. How'd that go, Mark? How's that going for you?
I mean, from a reality standpoint, as you put it, the reality is that you have certain restrictions on what you can and can't do with certain funds. Our utilities are run as enterprise funds, which I think is good, and what that means is that money that's generated from utilities goes back into utilities. So it's kind of it's put into that pocket or that bucket, if you will. Okay? If we go in and fix a street that has bad utilities, we're wasting street money, because we're going to have to tear that street out to fix the utilities eventually. And so you have to put those two things together in terms of hey, we're going to repair the utilities, we're going to fix the streets, and we're going to do this together, but we have to have money available for both. One of the things that I think, and to get more to your question, I know there's master plans that are out there. I'm a big fan of plan your work and work your plan.
Yes, sir.
I think where I can help with that process is not only finalizing these master plans. I know we're in those processes and getting close to the end, but also the implementation of those plans. Because you can have all the plans in the world, and it feels like at various times Victoria's had plans that we paid money for, we put on a shelf, and whether or not we did anything with them, I don't know. But you have to implement your various plans in a coordinated effort. That takes planning, that takes some foresight, that takes looking around corners, as I call it.
Yep.
And I've done that not only in my private or my business, for my clients when I'm drafting a contract, I'm thinking, hey, what happens if this thing gets broken in 20 years? What happens if trying to come up with different scenarios that you can plan for ahead of time. Same thing with government. You have to do strategic planning. You have to do long-term infrastructure development planning, and you have to coordinate how you implement that plan. If you don't do that, then you're just out there going, well, okay, what's screaming the most right now? Let's go throw money at that. And I don't think that's an effective use of taxpayer money.
Well, you've got the capital improvement plan that's in place, and we've had Jesus Garza on a number of times, and he points out that it's fluid. It's a really strong guideline, but it's not set in stone.
Sure.
And you're going into a golden time for development because you've got a whole bunch of bond capacity that's about to free up. And like you said, we've got money set aside to fix utilities. We need money for, say, infrastructure or roads. And this capacity is about to open up, which will allow you to take on some big projects. And it took me a long time to get my head around. I have no problem with a balanced budget, but you're never going to have a debt-free municipality because you don't ever pay everything off. It's all about debt capacity versus
managing that capacity.
Because it's an ongoing deal. We've already got probably more roads than we can ever dutifully fulfill. So I think when I visualize a council with, say, Jeff Botnight as mayor and you there, and guys like Dr. Young and Ricky and Josie and on, all of them, I think that we have a really strong council, and it seems like Raleigh did a really fine job of getting them all pulling the wagon in the same direction.
I agree.
I think that the idea of having a businessman there that can steer the ship with, well, what about this? Have you thought about that? I think that's a really good combination. So I wish you well in this.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks. And I'll say this too: the debt capacity that's coming up is due to some good planning that's going on in the past, because that debt capacity is a result of early paying on some past bonds. In addition to the debt capacity, we also have the $14.5 million through the American Rescue Plan. Right. That really is important to me, that we do something with that money that helps the taxpayers. We need to prioritize projects, not necessarily administrative buckets, if you will. And I want to see that money put into infrastructure, broadband infrastructure being one of them.
Right.
I made comments that there's things from COVID that we learned, things from COVID that became part of our life that aren't going to go away. Connectivity becomes hugely important. More people are going to work from home. More people are going to online school from home, particularly at the collegiate level. And so, I think broadband is important, not just for our citizens, but for our businesses. I'd like to see that American Rescue Plan money really focus on infrastructure projects, and broadband infrastructure being one of them.
One thing in the debate yesterday that was brought up, and there's 5 of you running for city council for District 3. We heard a lot about the homelessness problem. And as a result, not so much, but it goes hand in hand, panhandling, and it seems to thrive in District 3. The mall's there, a lot of the shopping is there, a lot of the commerce is there. How do you fix those two problems, the panhandling on the street sides and the homelessness? And I think it was Chad Hall who brought up affordable housing, because that is a problem. My daughter's trying to buy a house right now, and there's not much out there.
Right. On the affordable housing side, what I would like to see, and I think there's some of this in the works, but there's some public financing options that could help with that. And what I like to see is private and government cooperation, cooperative efforts. I don't want to call them public-private partnerships, because that's actually a real thing. Under Texas statute, you can have a public-private partnership that is its own entity. And those are very effective. You see them a lot in transportation projects. You've actually seen them when they build big arenas and stadiums and things like that. That's an example, and I'm not necessarily saying we need to do that, but that's an example of how I think the private sector and the public sector can come together to address an issue. One of the ways then to do that through on the housing issue is private activity bonds. These are bonds that essentially you allow a governmental entity can say, look, we're interested in this particular project. We're interested in this type of development. All comers, come talk to us. If you can develop this, let's talk about how we do this. And basically, a governmental entity lends their capacity to borrow money to a project, okay, with no blowback on the entity or on the governmental entity, meaning that they're not on the hook for the note.
Right.
I've seen this used in industrial projects. I'm thinking specifically one related to the Barge Canal down in Calhoun County between Union Carbide and the district down there, where those private activity bonds basically made a project possible because they could finance at a lower rate than you could go out and get in the traditional market.
So that capacity could really help Victoria's economic development efforts.
Sure, absolutely. And there's lots of public financing options out there that relate to economic development. And of course, we all talk about tax incentives and this and that, but there's other things out there that can aid in that effort. And I'd like to see us look more towards those kind of public-private working together in cooperation going forward.
Are you familiar with the world sport known as curling?
I am. In fact, I will tell you this: I have a bunch of relatives in Canada. My mother's family.
Come on now, this is getting.
I knew I liked you.
This is getting good.
There's still.
Now he's going to say he's from the motherland, the Soviet Union, and then it's all.
Then y'all are tight.
I still have relatives in Canada. I found out that
Crocker cough.
some of my guys are on in a curling league.
Okay, so here I count upon you, sir. If elected,
They bonspiel every Sunday.
can you help us with one of those public-private partnerships to get an arena that will allow us to bring curling, the great sport of curling, to UHV athletics? That's what we want. The outcry has been huge here at Wade and Carter. I'll tell you this: if I came up with a Wade and Carter curling team shirt, I guarantee you I could sell 500 of them. I'm telling you.
We're joined this morning by Dwayne Crocker, candidate for City Council District 3.
Absolutely. Hey, let's take one more break.
Yep.
And then you got time?
Sure.
Okay, we'll take one more break. Tell you real quick, folks, Chesnick Furniture Company, for over 100 years, 101 years. Think about
They've
this.
been the eyes on City Council.
They were selling furniture downtown before the building unit was built. No, about that time. 1912. Yeah, so right there.
Right.
Think about that. In 1920, Chesnick started selling furniture downtown.
They were on Main Street at that time.
Yeah,
Then they moved around the corner, and they've been at 116 West One for 71 years now.
it's crazy. Bobby Leon and his family. I mean, Bobby literally grew up walking around that store. And he's there today to help you and your family. We say Chesnick and Love make your house a home. They've always said you just do better at Chesnick. Get by Chesnick Furniture Company today and enjoy. Texas Coast Limo.
575 limo is the number to call. Bob Constantine can provide all your limos. He's got a great wedding trolley. Brings a unique travel element and
picture opportunity.
and just a talking piece to your wedding party. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Our buddy JP Hull at Razor IT Solutions. JP can help you with your analytics, encrypting your data, making sure that you can collect funds over the internet that won't get swiped by some hacker. He does it every day. He does it for Fortune 200 companies. He can certainly do it for you. Reach out to Razor IT Solutions. The law offices of Steve Kidder. We have a lot of fun with Steve. Steve usually gives us the word of the day. Yesterday it was tranche. And he doesn't always come through. Some days he sleeps late. But that's a story for another time. Steve Kidder.
Yeah.
If you need a will, a trust, if you want to perform an adoption, if you need to dissolve a partnership or you want to create one, Steven's a guy to call. He's a general practitioner type lawyer who can also represent you in the courthouse. Sometimes the best way to stay out of the courthouse is to have a lawyer discuss your options. Complete 360, whether you need a smoothie or a panini, there's a health bar right here on Red River that has wonderful. They have healthy wraps. They have a gluten-free oat flour waffle that they make their own sugar-free whipped topping for, and you would swear you were at IHOP on a sugar high. IHOP with Skittles is what it tastes like, and it's completely healthy. Tons of protein and no processed white flour. Go buy Complete 360 today. They're open here at the Health Bar at 7. They open up north by Buffalo Wild Wings at 8, and they have smoothies and all types of great stuff up there as well. And then we'll get to the others here at the end. We'll give you a couple more minutes and just.
Dwayne, if you're elected to represent District 3, what is the first priority that you need to tackle for the constituents in your district?
First priority, I go back to what is local government priority. Police and fire, number one. I mean, we got to keep our citizens safe. We got to keep them protected. And then you go, roads and utilities. I mean, those are really the major priorities. That doesn't mean that there's no livability component to government, but the focus, the majority of your effort, the majority of your planning, the majority of your spending, taxpayer money spending needs to be put into your essential functions, which police and fire, roads and utilities. I mean, that's where you have to look.
I take this opportunity every time I get it. I did it when J.J. Craig was here. I'll tell you that Robert Arredondo, our new police chief, is a fantastic gentleman, and he's been just a joy to visit with and to pick his brain about his vision. I know that him coming from Dallas, he thought there was a typo. He was looking for an extra comma in his budget, but I do encourage you, if elected, to focus on officer retention. We have a very good academy here, and our PD is very good at bringing these young officers on. They get trained, they get up to speed, they get all kinds of great training, and then they leave. And we don't want to be the junior college of police departments. We want to bring them on and keep them here. And the way to do that realistically is with money. There's got to be some equity that makes them say, I want to stay in Victoria. All of them, I've talked to several officers that have left. They loved Victoria. They loved the leadership. They just had a family and they had to leave. I think that's a shame. It's subject for another day, but it's like we talk about our school teachers. I think these folks put themselves in harm's way every shift, and we need to take care of them. So I applaud you for that comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you work? One thing we heard last night in the debate was jobs and bringing people to Victoria to stay here and settle here. So as city councilor, how do you, or what role do you play in trying to bring jobs? And I think jobs is the wrong word. We need careers to be brought to Victoria, so people will stay. If you have a job, to me it's too transient. Careers, we need industry, and we need careers that are in Victoria, so people will stay and grow this community. So how do you as a city councilor, or what would your role be in that?
Well, the city has used BEDC in the past, I know, for a lot of their economic development activities.
And there's a lot of pushback on that. People don't think that we've seen the bang for the buck that has been invested into VEDC. I mean, if you look at it, Caterpillar, that's kind of been it for the 25 years I've lived here.
Right. Ta-da! Right. And I'll say this, that I think Jesus Garza, current city manager, has looked at that and has looked at, hey, what are some options that maybe we can do some of this under our tent rather than farming it out. I think the approach in the past has been, where can we bring new business to Victoria? I think at least in my opinion, we've ignored local businesses that maybe want to expand, maybe localism as opposed to a nationalism.
Right.
I mean, let's take care of our people. Let's address maybe some businesses here that want to expand and add 20 jobs. 20 jobs or careers are, added from an existing business. It looks a lot like 20 jobs added from an outside business, So I think
it's not as sexy.
I get it.
But it is. But it has the appearance of not being. But I like this approach.
But I go back to sometimes just something that rocks along and you have some result, okay? And maybe it's not glamorous, maybe it's not sexy, but it provides a result over time, and a little bit here and a little bit there, and you keep going. Next thing you know, hey, look what's happened. We've added all these jobs in that period. But as a city councilman, I think you support those efforts. I think you try to be a part of those efforts. with both with the city managers and their team, and I can bring some of that experience that I've had with economic development on behalf of various entities. I've sat down in the room and done the negotiations with folks and said, look, here's what we can provide. What can you bring to us? How do we make this work?
You made the comment earlier that you plan your work and work your plan. So you've no doubt at some point heard, do what you do well.
Yeah.
So my thought on this is, I think Victoria, we hear. I like to believe, and I could be naive, but you heard our roll call of who's here.
Right.
I think we have our finger on the pulse of the community, and I'll tell you, and ask you if I'm wrong. This is I'm not putting Dwayne on the spot. I'm telling you, challenge me if I'm wrong. I believe the consensus among the majority of Victorians is fix the streets, find a way to monetize or at least totally utilize, broaden the scope of Riverside Park. And through the judicious application of abatements or whatever, do everything you can to tear down barriers to new businesses in this community. Streamline. Go Donald Trump on the red tape that it takes to get something done in this town. Because as you know, you've worked with these municipalities. I'm sure dealing with the port, you have to do everything you can just to keep Byron Burris out of the pokey. I get it. But at the end of the day, if Victoria could be viewed as, oh man, there's no rush hour, there's beautiful homes, there's a great park for your family to go to. We're working with Quentin Shepherd. Hey, the schools are great. There's plenty of churches. HEB is there. And it's a very business-friendly environment. If we had the reputation of being just NASCAR it's pushing a little in turn 3, it's loose. They're just crazy down there to get new business. If we had that reputation, all ships rise on an incoming tide.
Yeah, and I think economic development is part of that. And I want to clarify something I said earlier. I wasn't saying that VEDC isn't a vital part of economic development going forward. I think we need a more coordinated approach between the city, between VEDC, between the port, the airport. Let's do economic development together.
Yeah, it's a legitimate point because Lenny does a great job, and Lenny is myopic. He is focused on that airport. You got Nancy Garner is heading up the VEDC board, and they're great people, and they've got their deal. How often do the city manager, council, VEDC, the airport, how often do they sit down together and just, kick it around? What are we doing? School district, thank you.
And I think a lot of that happens on kind of the executive director level. You got Lenny, you've got Sean out at the port, you've got Jesus at the city. Those guys stay in touch with one another. I think that's great. We recently had a memorandum of understanding between what Mayor McCoy called the Big Five.
Right.
That really kind of and actually really kind of set out an outline for, hey, how do we cooperatively go forward with economic development? And it was really incumbent upon the entities to say, hey, this is our deal. We can't just say, hey, VEDC, go do this. We as the entities in Victoria have to be involved with that. And going back to what you said about fixing streets, about schools, about those are the type of things that industry looking to come here, they're going to take a peek at. They want to know how do your schools work. They want to know, hey, is the city trashy? I mean, do they keep it clean? Do they?
Right.
What kind of I guess amenities are here in terms of symphony, our great Victoria Theater, things like that. Those are all livability type issues.
Right.
They're not attracting people to Victoria, but they help them stay.
Quality of life.
Yeah.
It does.
UHV helps a lot with that.
Absolutely. No, the colleges are huge.
You brought something up though. We haven't given, for example, VEDC the ability to just go out and do something. My question is, then why don't we? Because I look at VEDC, I've been here 25 years, and all you see is Caterpillar. To me, that's an abject failure of 25 years of funding an entity for one large corporation. That was it. I mean, that type of track record seems to only exist in government. So if the problem has
that
been they
happens
haven't had
UT football, that only happens at Texas where they pay a guy $6 million a year to go 5-4. I mean, you're talking about $400,000 a year the city pumps into VEDC. I mean, I want to see like a new Dairy Queen on the north side of town at least.
So if that's the part of the issue, then why don't, like Brent said, let's cut the strings and provide some opportunity for these companies or these entities to go after it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend I know everything about what I'm about to say.
Fair. That was a very eloquent disclaimer. That's what we do every morning here, so you're good.
I at least try to be smart enough to know what I don't know. But I know that there's different types of economic development entities out there that can do, type A, type B, whatever it is, and they can do certain things and can't do other types of things. And I've asked the question, well, which type do we have? And if the other type is better, should we look at, how do we do the other type? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think what VEDC does is important to the community. I think it helps quite a bit perspective-wise, because I've seen this in action in real life at the table when outside entities learn that, hey, a large part of VEDC is funded by private individuals. Some of their monies for their budget come from businesses that are members of that. And I think VEDC going forward is going to have a role and needs to have a role in our economic development. I guess my point is that I'd like to see our governmental entities, the city, play a larger part in that, and especially in cooperation amongst themselves, to see if we can, can the Port and the airport join together on a project? Can the city and the port do something to support one another? Those are the type of things that I think are important. And Mayor McCoy did this somewhat, and I applaud him for it. And it's been mentioned, we're all rowing at the same beat in the same direction,
right
now, and I want to keep that momentum and those synergies going in economic development, especially.
I had a conversation back during our campaign when Raleigh and I visited a lot and really gained a big affinity for Raleigh. And they would ask a question, say in a forum or a debate, and they would ask me a question. It was basically a yes or no question. So I'd say yes. Then they would ask Raleigh, and he sounded like Bill Clinton in an impeachment inquiry. Could you define, or what definition of "or" are you using there? And Raleigh would talk for 20 minutes. But at the end of the day, even though Raleigh would talk for 20 minutes, and believe it or not, I would just go, yes. At the end of the day, we both agreed that Victoria, Texas, if it doesn't want to be Sinton in 20 years, needs to get the word out that Victoria, Texas is open for business.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we can get that message out, we have the amenities here. Tell people we're right in the middle of everything. You're accessible to everything. We might even have a call. Somebody might have a question. Wow. Good morning. You're on Wade and Carter with our friend Dwayne Parker. How can we help?
Oh, wrong one.
Maybe.
No.
Hello? Oh.
I've got nobody.
Thank you for that insightful question. There's nobody there. I tell you what, why don't you, we're going to do one more, we'll try again. One more time. How are you? Good morning. Hello. I'm sorry. Well, call back at 8. Take a minute and give us
we're having phone line issues.
Give us your elevator speech, and we'll take one more break and we'll be done. But tell the folks what you want them to know, and just take that as this is your moment to just tell them whatever you want them to know.
Gotcha. Well, I think what I want them to know is that I'm committed to this race, and I'm committed to this job if I'm elected. I have the background, I have the experience, and I think more so than any other candidate in the field in terms of both business interest, business concerns, but also in terms of governmental operations. I have hands-on experience in budgeting and public finance and strategic planning and infrastructure development, transparency in government. These are the things that I think uniquely situate me to step into this role and become effective very quickly. I'm not saying there won't be a learning curve. I'm perpetually a student, but I think that learning curve is not quite as steep for me as maybe it would be for some other candidates. I'm committed to responsible, effective, fiscally conservative use of taxpayer money. and I'm asking for the people's vote in this election.
That's fantastic.
Dwayne, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we'll visit with you in just a second. I want to tell you that I really appreciate the accessibility that we have of folks that are willing to come in. Victoria is very fortunate. I think all of these folks that are running for this position are good people. They're good Victorians. They all mean well. Nobody's doing it for the money. Nobody's doing it for any prestige. These folks want to help our city, and I applaud them. This last segment was brought to you by Motto Mortgage, 541-5454. Terry Murray and her team can help you lower your interest rate. You talk about debt capacity. She can help you pull money out to remodel a kitchen or
pay it off early.
You can lower your rate. You can lower all the variables, right? There's time and rate. She can help you with that, lower your payment or lower your time frame. Went Services, the great folks at Went can help you with a generator, with plumbing issues. They can help you with solar panels. They can help you with generators, whatever you need. The folks at Went can take care of you. Call Went Services for all your home utility needs. USA Concrete Coatings, Charlie Garcia and his team will come out, 578-HOME, HOME, 578-HOME. They'll come out and help you with a polyurethane coating that's just tough as nails. It won't
4 times stronger
tires.
than anything in any epoxy product. You don't have to apply it yourself.
You don't
They'll
want
get
to do
it done
yourself.
in about a day.
They'll seal the cracks. They'll put down a fleck, a pattern, whatever you want, a design on your floor, Cowboys, Texans, whatever you want. They'll put it down for you. And then, of course, the Gray Barn, 920-6803, 920-6803. Cheryl's on the road right now doing research for her next big party. She's grabbing decorations that she needs. If you come in and you have an idea of how you want to decorate for a party, I want this theme. She can do that for you. She's done it for numerous. She does a lot of corporate work, Ash, and I think that's really cool. If you're going to have a big-time sales meeting and you want to set a tone for your staff, why not engage Cheryl? It's not grossly expensive, and the benefit far outweighs the cost.
Absolutely.
920-6803. Reach out to Cheryl. We're going to get out of here. Stay tuned for the Hall of Famer, Ralph Salazar, along with Brother Gary, when Brother Gary gets here from the VEDC meeting, where they're no doubt going